in an overheating car. Miles and Carol Harrison from Purcellville, Virginia. They are the parents of Chase, who died at only 21 months on July 8th, 2008, after being unknowingly left in a hot car. Erin Holly of Charlotte, South Carolina. Her now 2-year-old son, Finn, was 4 weeks old when he was unknowingly left in their family car. Fortunately, his parents quickly realized their mistake and rescued their baby boy. But just a few months later, one of Finn's daycare classmates died in a hot car shortly after a 7-month-old child in Erin's community also died in an overheated car. You know, there are far too many ways for parents to lose children that we can't control. We have a duty, however, to do everything we can to ensure that parents don't lose a child when we can prevent that. 52 children died in heat stroke in cars last year. 52. In most cases, the parents accidentally, loving parents, accidentally left their child in the car. 8 children died in hot cars so far this year. Just yesterday, a 5-month-old girl tragically died in a van sitting outside of her daycare. Education alone cannot solve this crisis. Even the most attentive parent can get distracted and inadvertently leave their child in a rapidly warming vehicle. A simple alert notification for parents that they have left their child in the car can save their lives. Yesterday, we had a press conference where several such technologies were displayed, proving that we have the technological skill that we need to prevent many of these tragedies. We do have to do an evaluation of those different technologies. You get a warning when you leave keys in the car or when you leave your lights on. Every new car should be equipped with technology to effectively alert parents if they learn that a child is in the car. That's why I'm eager to reintroduce hot cars, the Hot Cars Act, with Congressman Ryan, and also with in New York. Yes, and also Congressman King of New York, that new cars come equipped with an alert system. I also look forward to exploring many other safety technologies, such as automatic emergency braking, lane departures, departure warnings, and pedestrian detection. These that exist today and can dramatically reduce the number of automobile fatalities and injuries. But deployment of these safety features is slow and often reserved for those willing to pay a premium for advanced technologies in their cars. It's time for Congress to take decisive action to keep families safe, and we all have a track record, and we do have a track record of success. Last year, finally, rear backup cameras became standard in new vehicles, and an issue that I championed for a long time before it actually became the law and was enforced. And thanks to the commitment of those parents, children, and advocates who made that happen. I look forward to exploring how we can ensure that all cars can be equipped with the best safety features. And I now yield to the ranking member, Ms. McMorris-Rodgers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to just say thank you for your leadership on these important issues for many years, and now as the chair of this subcommittee. Welcome to everyone. Today we're going to explore ways that we can protect drivers and their families from dangers on our roadways, as well as off our roadways, as the chairwoman just outlined. First, thank you, Mr. Harrison, for being here. Your story is powerful and it's moving, and I want to commend you for your commitment to Chase. Several automakers have taken the challenge of reducing instances children are left in cars head on. And there's also several startups focusing on other technologies to address these tragedies. I am committed to finding all paths to getting safety and safe technologies into cars faster. Sometimes that means industry needs certainty, and sometimes that means the market needs space for innovation, or both. This weekend is Memorial Day weekend, and it brings families and friends together. We honor those who've sacrificed their lives defending our rights and our freedom. It also unofficially marks the start of the summer vacation travel season, and with more travel comes more risk on the roads. In recent years, more than 300 people have died over the holiday weekend, and some estimate that the number could increase over this weekend. I encourage everyone here and everyone watching, be safe. Put your phone down. Focus on driving. Do not drive if you've consumed any alcohol or other drugs. If you feel different, drive different. Put on your seatbelt. Seatbelts save lives. Risk on our roadways also presents safety concerns year-round. Technology offers potential solutions to many of these safety concerns. Right now, advanced driver assistance systems are in more and more cars that we drive every day. Advanced driver assistance systems include automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, crash avoidance technology, blind spot detection, vehicle-to-vehicle communications, V2X, and so much more. In fact, 20 automakers have voluntarily pledged to include automatic emergency braking, the AEB, in virtually all new passenger vehicles by September 2022. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety estimates that by 2025, this agreement will prevent 28,000 crashes and 12,000 injuries. These systems are the foundation and building blocks for self-driving vehicles. We lose more than 37,000 lives a year on our roads, and according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 94% of all accidents are due to human error. These include distracted driving, driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and even driving drowsy. The more we can safely automate the driving process, the more human error we can remove. As a result, we have greatly improved the safety of our roadways. In addition to drastically improving safety, self-driving vehicles offer vast mobility benefits. People with disabilities, our elderly community, and those not served by traditional public transportation stand to gain so much from widespread use of self-driving vehicles. Self-driving vehicles promise to improve freedom and mobility for our communities. Self-driving vehicles would make going to work, to the grocery store, across town to visit friends, or going to the doctor so much more easier. Self-driving vehicles will restore independence and break down the transportation barriers for so many Americans. Self-driving vehicles are also important for our global standing. Right now, the United States is the global leader in innovation. To compete and remain the leader, we must do everything we can to advance the safe development and deployment of self-driving vehicle technology. Other countries are moving full speed ahead. Some are even developing their technology in our own backyard. Almost a quarter of all companies testing in California are Chinese. Earlier this year, I joined my colleagues, Republican Leader Walden and Representative Latta, urging this committee to continue the bipartisan work from last Congress to advance the safe development of self-driving cars. I want to thank the chairwoman, Chair Schakowsky, for holding this important hearing for us to explore ways, so many ways in which we can improve auto safety and save lives. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back, and now I recognize Chairman Pallone for 5 minutes for his opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This hearing is particularly timely as the Memorial Day weekend is one of the busiest travel weekends of the year. Millions of Americans are taking to the nation's roads to travel to barbecues and beaches, including many heading to the Jersey Shore. But this can be a dangerous weekend, too. Nearly 350 people died in motor vehicle crashes over Memorial Day weekend in 2017, and as temperatures rise, so does the risk of heat stroke for children left in cars. In 2017, more than 40,000 people died as a result of a motor vehicle accident, and 4.6 million were injured. And unfortunately, automobile fatalities are on the rise. Motor vehicle death rates have steeply increased since 2014, after nearly a decade of falling. It's a troubling trend suggesting that we need to double down on our efforts to improve the safety of our roadways. Technologies exist that will vastly improve motor vehicle safety, but we must find ways to get them in the hands of all drivers. Take, for example, heat stroke victims in cars. One child's death is an extraordinary tragedy. 52 is a crisis. Last year, 52 children died from heat stroke after being left in hot cars. Over the last 20 years, 802 children have been lost from these types of tragedies, and more than half of those deaths occur when a distracted parent accidentally leaves his or her child in a vehicle. And this is heartbreak. This is a heartbreak, obviously, that Mr. Harrison knows all too well. Mr. Harrison, I'm sorry for your loss, and I thank you for sharing your son's stories in hopes that we can end these sorts of devastating accidents. There are ways we can prevent kids from dying from vehicular heat stroke. Technologies alerting drivers to check their back seats for children exist today, but have not been widely deployed. This crisis requires action. Just yesterday, there was another tragic death in Florida when a baby girl died after being left in a daycare van for several hours. And that's why I applaud Chairwoman Schakowsky and Congressman Ryan for their work on the Hot Cars Act, legislation that would require vehicles to be equipped with safety technologies, alerting drivers to check their rear seat after a car is turned off. These and other existing safety technologies hold the promise of saving lives and reducing both the number and the severity of auto crashes. Crash avoidance technologies like automatic emergency brakes, rear automatic braking, blind spot detection, and lane departure warnings are all proving to reduce crashes. Similarly, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety estimates that adaptive headlights, which automatically channel light around curves without causing glare for oncoming traffic, could help prevent up to 90% of nighttime curb crashes. These headlights are available overseas, but are not legal in the United States. Yet NHTSA has not done much to require or even encourage automakers to make life-saving technology standard. If an automotive feature or technology proves it can save lives, it should not be a luxury reserved only for those who can afford to buy the high-end car. These sorts of safety technologies should become as standard in our cars as seatbelts and airbags. NHTSA is even failing at educating consumers and incentivizing manufacturers to adopt safety features. The new car assessment program managed by NHTSA provides ratings on a scale from 1 to 5 stars for vehicle performance in crash and rollover tests. This 5-star safety rating is supposed to be a tool that helps consumers make more informed decisions when purchasing their vehicles and encourages manufacturers to exceed minimum safety standards. But this safety seal has become basically a mere participation trophy. 99% of 2016 models received 4 or 5 stars, the highest ratings. The very integrity and value of the 5-star safety rating is undermined if the certification does not draw meaningful distinctions between the safety of different vehicles. It's also not meaningful if this safety certification fails to include crucial safety technologies already deployed on automobiles. Unfortunately, the 5-star safety rating does not account for advanced crash avoidance technologies like forward collision warning, lane departure warning, and blind spot detection. NHTSA started to update the program in 2015, but has yet to make needed changes. We must modernize the 5-star safety rating for the 21st century auto so consumers can be empowered to identify and purchase the safest car of their choosing. So I thank our witnesses for testifying this morning. Madam Chair, I want to say that I really am impressed by all of not only the hearings that you've been having, but the initiatives that are coming forward on consumer protection, which I really think has kind of been neglected in the past, and you're making sure that when we deal with consumer issues that they're once again in the forefront. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In lieu of the ranking Republican, Mr. Latta is now recognized for 5 minutes for an opening statement.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for holding today's hearing. And I want to thank all of our witnesses, and especially you, Mr. Harrison, for being with us today. As been mentioned, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend and the unofficial start of summer. Summertime means school is out and families across the country are hitting the roads for vacation. It can also mean more inexperienced drivers behind the wheel, added congestion, and increased unpredictability on our roadways. Today, we have the opportunity to discuss the bipartisan efforts the subcommittee can make to promote the development and deployment of different technologies that have the potential to address some of these concerns and ultimately save thousands of lives. In 2016 alone, more than 37,000 people lost their lives on U.S. highways. 94% of the accidents are attributed to human error, including driver distraction and inattention. I believe there are technologies we can utilize to prevent the loss of life during the summertime driving season and any time. Today, many cars are already equipped with active safety features or semi-autonomous driving systems. These systems, known as advanced driver assistance systems, help drivers stay within their designated lane, accelerate to pass a slow-moving vehicle, safely change lanes, avoid front-end collisions, and even park. These advanced systems demonstrate the important role technology plays to address auto safety concerns and are the foundation for the eventual deployment of self-driving vehicles. That is why last Congress I introduced with Chairman Schakowsky the Bipartisan Self-Drive Act, which clarified the federal and state roles in regulating self-driving vehicles, provided much needed updates to outdated statutory and regulatory barriers, and ensure that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration gets the data it needs, all while focusing on consumer safety and improving mobility for individuals with disabilities, our senior citizens, and those underserved by inadequate public transportation. Included in the legislation was also language to spur innovation around technology to help avoid the tragedy of a child losing his or her life in a hot vehicle. U.S. companies are investing major resources in the research and deployment of these technologies, and the Self-Drive Act would have provided much-needed certainty and updates to existing rules to unleash this innovation. Earlier this year, I joined Republican leaders Walden and Rogers in requesting the gentleman from New Jersey, the chairman of the full committee, that this committee stay focused on this issue. I believe our work on the Self-Drive Act was an example of this committee at its best, working together in an open process on technology that will save lives. Since the legislation passed unanimously both in committee and on the House floor, it is my hope that we can make this issue a priority again in this Congress. Within this subcommittee, the gentlelady from Illinois, our chair, has worked tirelessly to promote technology to seek to prevent the tragedies we have heard about when a child is left in a hot car. I commend her for her work and stand committed to working with her in a bipartisan way to implement policies that could reduce these tragedies. We have an opportunity to work towards ending senseless deaths on our roads by making investments in technology. I want to thank our members and staff on both sides of the aisle for their hard bipartisan work on this issue. Again, I thank the gentlelady for having this committee hearing today, and I yield back the balance of my time.
I thank the gentleman. I want to assure you that we will be working in a bipartisan way on both the autonomous vehicles, but also the safety protection bills. I hope everyone will come on as a co-sponsor of the Hot Cars Act. So now it is my privilege to introduce our witnesses today. I did want to point out that there is a slightly different feature available today, and those are boxes of tissue, because we're dealing with a very, very sensitive issue today, among others. Our witnesses are Miles Harrison, who is the father of Chase Harrison; Jeanette Fennell, the president and founder of Kids in Cars organization; Gary Shapiro, who is president and CEO of Consumer Technology Association; and Jason Levine, executive director of the Center for Auto Safety. We want to thank our witnesses for joining us today. We look forward to your testimony. I failed to mention that all members can submit for the record opening statements. But at this time, the chair will now recognize each witness for 5 minutes to provide their opening statement. I think most people here understand the light system. You have a series of lights. The light will initially be green at the start of your opening statement. The light will then turn yellow when you have 1 minute remaining, and please begin to wrap up testimony at that point. The light will turn red when your time has expired. So, Mr. Harrison, again, very grateful for you to be here. I know this is difficult. We all do. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. And for everyone here, thank you for your time. 11 years ago, it was a typical day at my home. Everyone getting up, getting ready to head out the door, as well as myself getting ready to go to work. Like many parents, I was multitasking, thinking of all the things to do during the day. We were rushing around, not very organized. My world changed forever that day. When I went to my office, I was focused on all the work problems that people typically focus on. And the day flew by. I even went out to lunch with my boss. We talked about all the problems, all the pressures. Having no idea what time it was, at the end of the day, a colleague of mine came up to my office around 5 p.m. and said, "Hey, do you have a doll in your car?" And I said, "A doll? What are you talking about?" It was then that I realized, oh my God, what have I done? I ran outside of my office and rushed to my car. I saw my son chase through the window. I threw open the car door and grabbed him and rushed in to my office carrying him and screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." I had not dropped him off at daycare. I was so distraught and upset, I couldn't see straight. I was taken by ambulance to the emergency room. And I remember a nurse asking me if I wanted something for the pain. And I said, "I don't deserve that. I need to feel all this pain." From the hospital, they took me to the police station, where the police insinuated that I had murdered my son. The first thing they asked me is if I had life insurance on my son. I didn't even think about that. From the police station, I was taken to a hospital where I stayed under an assumed name for 2 weeks, because if I had checked in with my real name, I would have been arrested. During my hospital stay, my son had a funeral, which I was not allowed to attend. I made my own funeral by pulling out the trundle part of my bed and had my own funeral because I could not go to my son's. My story continues with a very public trial, fighting a charge of involuntary manslaughter, which, thank God, I was found not guilty. But it didn't matter to me. I was already guilty, so full of shame and embarrassment and anger. I had killed my son. I cry every day for Chase. I still haven't forgiven myself. Don't know if I ever will. After the trial, Gene Weingarten wrote a Pulitzer Prize article called Fatal Distraction about parents who have gone through what my family has gone through. This didn't have to happen. If there had been a simple alert in my car, this would not have happened. Children are dying unnecessarily. Families are being destroyed. In my son's honor, we've made it a mission to try to help Congress implement some sort of a car warning system. Please, I implore you to enact this legislation. I know my time's running up, so I'm going to stop, but I want to thank you all for hearing my testimony. And please help us.
Thank you so much. Ms. Fennell, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chairwoman, I am Jeanette Fennell, the founder and president of kidsandcars.org. We are an organization dedicated to improving safety of children in and around motor vehicles. Kidsandcars.org appreciates the opportunity to express our views on the Hot Cars Act and other available technologies that will save the lives of children. In 1996, my family was kidnapped at gunpoint in San Francisco and locked in the trunk of our car. Thankfully, we all survived and used this traumatic experience to help guide the federal regulatory process to ensure that no one else had to end up in the trunk of a vehicle without a means of escape. Now, all vehicles come with an internal trunk release as standard equipment. Though we are proud of that accomplishment, the most important lesson we continue to learn every day is that these simple changes to vehicles save lives. In fact, not one person has died in a vehicle equipped with an internal trunk release. Not one. We're showing a chart here that talks about hot car deaths. Starting in the mid-90s, parents were told to transport their children in the backseat of vehicles to protect them from the airbags in the front seat. Laws were passed requiring this behavior, and that forever changed the way American children are transported. As you can see from this chart, while we have basically eradicated children being killed by overpowered airbags, children continue to die in hot cars. When most people think about memory, they think about retrospective memory, the ability to recall things from the past. The other type of memory is prospective memory, the ability to plan and execute an action in the future, for example, the intention to drop a baby at daycare. Prospective memory is more prone to forgetfulness. If you've ever forgotten something on top of your car or failed to run an errand, you've experienced the fickleness of our prospective memory. Unknowingly leaving a child in a vehicle is a prospective memory failure. Studies show that in autopilot, the brain is unable to account for a change in routine. The reason is that when you're on autopilot, you're functioning on your habit memories, not what is exactly happening in the here and now. The catch here is that the habit memory suppresses and completely takes over the prospective memory, regardless of the importance of your plan. Autopilot is most common during times of stress and fatigue, both of which all parents of young children experience. These cognitive failures have nothing to do with a parent's love for their child or the ability to care for them. No one in this world has an infallible memory. We need to focus on technology because we've proven year after year that knowing this can happen to you and hearing on the news is not changing anything. A detection system is a must. Right now, somewhere in the United States, dozens of families are going about their daily lives unaware by the year's end their child will die in a hot car. Now let's talk about frontovers. NHTSA's 2018 report states that frontovers are responsible for 366 deaths and 15,000 injuries. Toddlers are extremely vulnerable because they have established independent mobility at about 1 to 2 years of age, yet they have not developed the cognitive ability to understand danger. Young children are impulsive, unpredictable, and still have very poor judgment. This is a real combination for a disaster. Automatic emergency braking, or bird's eye or 360-degree view technology, uses a series of cameras and sensors all around the vehicle, allowing drivers to see all sides of that vehicle. And now keyless ignition. This is a vehicle design flaw that can be easily remedied with an automatic ignition shutoff feature. Many drivers are accustomed to using a traditional key to start and stop their vehicle. When a traditional key is removed, that means the vehicle engine is turned off. However, in vehicles with a keyless ignition, the driver can walk away with their key fob in their hand while the vehicle is left running. And as I wrap up, I can say nothing more elegant than a statement that was made in Automotive News. All safety-related devices should become standard equipment on all vehicles. No choice. It's not an economic decision. It's a moral decision. When the choice becomes profit versus lives, the decision should be simple. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to announce that a vote has been called. We have time, I think, for Mr. Shapiro's 5 minutes, and I recognize you now. Then we will break, and hopefully all those here can come back. I'll be here.
I will be too.
Okay.
Chair Chakowski, Ranking Member McMorris Rogers, and members of the Subcommittee, thank you for giving me this opportunity to testify. The Consumer Technology Association represents over 2,200 American technology companies, 80% of whom are small businesses and startups. We also own and produce CES. It's the largest and most influential tech event in the world. It's the largest business event in the world in Las Vegas every January. We applaud you and this committee for addressing this important issue, vehicle safety, especially around a busy summer driving season. We know that many life-saving technologies exist, and others, such as self-driving technology, are quickly advancing. At CES 2018, Carol Staninger, a passionate advocate for the welfare of children and president of Answer, exhibited her innovation for the first time. She was 82 years old. After seeing news stories about children and pets accidentally left in hot cars, Carol decided that she could make a difference through technology. She invented a presence detector, an alarm device called Saved Our Loved Ones, to prevent children, seniors, and pets from being left alone in cars. Many other entrepreneurs have introduced devices to solve this specific problem using connected car seats, apps, and Bluetooth. They all help remind parents to check the back seat. Automakers have also worked to address this problem. Nissan has the rear door alert system, which monitors when the rear door is opened and closed before and after the vehicle is in motion. Several other tech-enabled safe driving products can increase safety. There are tools to help parents monitor teenage drivers, prevent distraction, and alert first responders in the case of an emergency. You've heard the statistics today. 30 to 40,000 people are dying every year on U.S. roads. That's more than 100 deaths per day, and 94% of serious crashes are due to human error. And on average, 11 children die in auto accidents every week. And we can prevent those tragedies. Self-driving vehicles will lead to a huge reduction in roadway fatalities. They cannot become distracted, fatigued, or impaired, and they have a 360-degree viewing angle around the vehicle. Not only will self-driving vehicles save lives, they'll empower seniors and people with disabilities. And full adoption of self-driving vehicles could cut insurance premiums by some 40%. We will see increased productivity as people waste less time in traffic. We'll need fewer parking structures, opening new areas for green space. And every day there are advances in self-driving vehicles. Many companies, both here and abroad, are already testing self-driving vehicles, with countries like China vying for the lead. The road to fully self-driving vehicles is a global competition, and we expect every leading nation to confront tough issues, such as self-driving accidents, which will occur, although in minuscule numbers compared to our national annual carnage from human drivers. Some argue that self-driving vehicles should not be deployed until systems are perfect. This is a dangerous road, as perfection may be a long, unreachable goal. Every year that we delay self-driving, we are costing tens of thousands of American lives. A RAND report found that deploying cars that are just 10% safer than the average human driver will save more lives than waiting until those cars are 70% or 90% better. We'll be able to save millions of lives in the future, but only if we move forward. The perfect must not be the enemy of the great. We don't have to wait for fully self-driving vehicles to start reducing the number of deaths. Driver assist technology is already saving lives, avoiding accidents, and paving the way for completely self-driving innovations to come. Advanced driver assistance systems can prevent nearly 30% of all crashes, saving 10,000 lives a year. There are technologies that help drowsy or inattentive drivers stay focused or provide specific responses, such as automatic braking and lane drift avoidance. And the aftermarket industry provides a valuable service in allowing consumers to add these great technologies to vehicles they already own. And Congress and the Department of Transportation have already recognized the value of these vehicles. Last year, the Self-Drive Act, which Chair Schakowsky and Congressman Lada both introduced, as you said, and which we supported, passed out of this committee and the House unanimously. It would have given a jump start towards adopting our vehicle safety laws to address self-driving and would have made a huge difference in creating more opportunities for testing and development. Sadly, politics got in the way of it crossing the finish line in the Senate, but I'm encouraged by the continued efforts of the Department of Transportation and members on both sides of the aisle to move our country forward and advance this life-saving technology. I ask you to continue your leadership. There are challenges. Much work remains to be done, but we are heading towards zero fatalities. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Mr. Levine, we'll hear from you when we come back. And please come right back after votes. There are 3 votes. Thank you. In recess. Harrison could go back to the table. Oh, there he is, okay. Thank you. We ready, Mr. Levine?
Yes,
You may proceed for 5 minutes, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Pallone, Chairwoman Schakowsky, Ranking Member Walden, and Ranking Member Rogers for holding this important meeting. My name is Jason Levine, and I am the Executive Director of the Center for Auto Safety. Since 1970, the Center has been the nation's premier independent, nonprofit advocacy organization focused on auto safety, quality, and fuel economy. On behalf of our members and all drivers, passengers, and pedestrians, we work every day to get unsafe cars and trucks off the road as quickly as possible. There are far too many defective vehicles and unrepaired, recalled cars and trucks on our nation's roads. Yet our mission has also always included pressing for vehicles of tomorrow to be as safe as possible. In our 5 decades, we have successfully advocated for car companies to install advanced safety technology, from airbags to electronic stability control, from anti-lock brakes to backup cameras. During that same time, we have urged the Department of Transportation to create performance standards to ensure these new technologies work as advertised, provide the appropriate level of safety, and make safety features standard equipment and not luxury add-ons. Sadly, while Silicon Valley, Detroit, and Wall Street use a lot of happy talk about millions of robot cars coming to save the world in the next few months, back here on planet Earth, auto crash deaths and injuries continue to represent a public health crisis. They are the leading cause of death for 5 to 24-year-olds in the United States and are responsible for more than 38,000 funerals annually. That is the equivalent of almost every man, woman, and child in Park Ridge, Illinois, or Pullman, Washington. Unfortunately, instead of writing minimum performance standards to require existing safety technology, the current administration seems to prefer deferring to whatever the auto industry finds most profitable at the moment. The crash avoidance technology features often highlighted in TV commercials, including automatic emergency braking, lane departure warnings, or adaptive headlights, all exist in an unregulated state with varying, unpredictable, and poorly measured performance. This lack of standards leads to consumer confusion and diminishes the increased safety protections that this technology promises. Moreover, even existing congressional mandates to the Department of Transportation are regularly ignored. Rules for rear seatbelt reminder systems, front and side impact requirements for child seats, rollover integrity for buses, and use of email for recall notifications are each many, many years overdue. Sadder still, the groundbreaking new car assessment program, NCAP, better known as America's 5-star crash rating system, has been allowed to become an afterthought when compared to our foreign competitors, all of whom base their programs on our NCAP. This is the equivalent of the United States no longer being a force in basketball on the world stage. NHTSA's failure to update the program, combined with steps taken last year to freeze the current ratings in place, means that receiving a 5-star crash rating will soon be the equivalent of receiving a Little League participation trophy. The ability to improve the safety of the 17 million new vehicles sold in the United States every year remains in our collective reach. NHTSA must set mandatory performance standards in order to create a level playing field and ensure the safety technology meets minimum levels of functionality. Otherwise, consumer safety is dependent either upon economic status or seeking civil justice after a tragedy, neither of which is a long-term solution. Yet, as part of the deregulatory fever which has gripped NHTSA, instead of writing safety standards, the agency is withdrawing rulemakings with known safety benefits, including updating event data recorders and requiring electronic throttle control to mitigate instances of sudden acceleration. Auto safety is not now and should never be a partisan issue. The safety of our families and friends, our neighbors on the road, our dogs, the pedestrians on our streets, the bicyclists in our bike lanes can be improved today through technology and congressional leadership. We greatly appreciate this committee shining your spotlight on an issue that impacts every single American. On behalf of our members across the country, the Center for Auto Safety stands ready to help you in these efforts. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
And we will now begin the portion where members can ask questions. Each of us has 5 minutes, and I'll begin. Ms. Fennell, how quickly can a car reach dangerous temperatures on a warm day?
I think it happens much more quickly than people understand. In fact, 80% of the heat that's going to accumulate in your car happen in the first 10 minutes. So by the time the child or anyone's in a car for as much as an hour, the temperature has spiked as much as 40 to 50 degrees. And you can imagine on an 80-degree day how warm that vehicle gets.
I wanted to ask you about the technology. As you know, right now the Hot Cars Act does not specify any particular technology. Are some better than others, and what are the things that, in your view, ought to be basic essentials in any technology?
Well, some of the technology out there is a very good start. But what we really need is something that detects the presence of a child, an animal, or any occupant that can't get out of the car on their own. So what is needed is something that detects the presence of a living being. And that is available. We demonstrated it yesterday. So that really is what is needed to end this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Levine, I was told, maybe I wasn't able to see the technologies, I was told that something, one of them connected to the fob. I don't have a key to my car, but I've got a fob, which I never touch. It's in my purse, it opens the door, I can start the car, I don't ever touch it. Have you heard of that? And I mean, I want to say that would not be sufficient in any way if it only dealt with that kind of a notification. I'm not so sure either about text messages or whatever. I'm not looking at my phone all the time. So when you think about the technologies, I'm thinking about hot cars again. Do you have any suggestions that we ought to take in mind?
Well, thank you for the question. I think the first issue we have identified is we need to use technology to remind people that they make mistakes. We all make mistakes. No mistake should cause a tragedy. Manufacturers are experimenting with different technologies, and I believe your fob vibrating is one of them, text messaging is another one. The more important question is what is going to work, not just what is feasible. And so that's going to require some consumer testing. That's going to require some research study. But obviously, the more audible the warning, the more visible, the more urgent that warning is, the more likely we're going to save lives. So, it's good to see experiments. Maybe it's all of those things combined. Maybe you're opting into some and some are mandatory. But you're right. If it's something that's not going to actually help you, then there's no point in having it other than putting out an advertisement.
Okay, I just would want to go on record as saying the two things that you said, a text message or just going to the fob, I think is absolutely not sufficient. Wouldn't be for me. I wanted to, well, I think you've said, Ms. Fennell, how this legislation would help protect children in vehicle accidents, but what is your priority in this legislation? What do you want to see happen, and are the technologies there now that are sufficient to make children safe?
Well, thank you for that question, and I want to piggyback a little bit on Mr. Levine's comment, because the systems that we're seeing today have redundancy. So if a child is locked in a car, it's really up to the OEM. Do they want them to be a loud horn? Do they want it to be a text message? They can choose how that person is alerted. And there's many different layers. It's the OEM picks, I want those two or those three. So obviously the more the better. But there's software available now. It's called door sequencing. So if you open your back door within 10 minutes of leaving for your trip, when you arrive, you'll get a little flash on your dashboard that says check the rear seat. And that we welcome that. But it doesn't say if there's a child in the car or not. And for instance, if on your way to work, you've opened that back door, you go and you stop for gas, and you don't open that back door, when you arrive at work, you will not get that notification. So what we really want to make sure is a system that can detect the presence of a living being and that there is redundancy built into the system.
Okay. I've run out of time. Mr. Shapiro, I thank you, and we can talk more. We had a little conversation, but I'd like more. But I just want to say, my ranking member will, that I just can't thank you enough, Miles and Carol, who have made their life's mission to prevent this tragedy that you have suffered so much. In the name of Chase, you are going to make a difference, and I look forward to working together to prevent others from suffering that way. So thank you once again. I yield back. And now I yield 5 minutes to the ranking member, Ms. McMorris-Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I share those thoughts. I'm curious, as a mom with 3 young kids dealing with car seats every day, is there any technology related to an alarm system on the car seat itself?
I can take that question. Yes, there are 2 car seats made by Evenflow that have technology built into them. They're a little bit higher price than a regular car seat, but the problem we have with that is that nobody thinks this is going to happen to them. They may not want to pay that extra $5. So car seats, of course, is a welcome addition to some of the technology that is needed, but we really feel it should be vehicle-based. Because when you think about so many years ago, no one ever wanted an airbag, and they wouldn't pay extra for that airbag. Now we've, fast forward to today, who would ever buy a vehicle without an airbag? So it does, take time for those things to go through the turnover of the vehicle system. But we are really promoting vehicle-based and car seat as a backup.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Shapiro, in your testimony, you highlighted an entrepreneur over 80 years old who had a booth at CES focused on preventing children, seniors, and even pets from being inadvertently left in cars. It also highlighted the benefits of self-driving cars for all facets of society. I have a son with special needs, Down syndrome, and I'm really excited about what self-driving cars are going to mean for him and his future. How do you see innovations helping us move towards safer roadways and saving lives? In other words, how can we address these auto safety issues through innovation and technology-based solutions?
Thank you. We as an association have one fundamental mission, and it's focused on innovation, improving people's lives. So we're pretty passionate about it. And I think there's a role for industry, there's a role for consumer groups, and there's a role for government. To me, the role of government is to, in a sense, encourage innovation and also create the regulatory guardrails so that we can proceed and also have competition, because competition, there's so many solutions to this problem. We're seeing it in the competitive marketplace, you could see it in the patent filings, you could see it, and it's just not about this issue. To me, the bigger answer, in a sense, is since it takes so long to get a rulemaking, a process to go forward, to get it implemented, the aging cars we have, the average is 12 years, young parents with kids aren't likely to buy a new car. The quicker answer to me is to get us to self-driving and the levels there as quickly as possible. Because if you think about self-driving, the advantage of that is, first of all, we obviously have fewer accidents, and I expect that we're going to start having soon as we have these steps to self-driving. But the second is, and Ms. Fennell really hit home this point well for me, is that part of the challenge is that we're away from our children by sitting in the front. It makes sense from a safety point of view while you're mobile. But with self-driving, that won't be necessary anymore. Most likely, you'll be in the back with your kids. And that type of incidents will be helped. But we'll also obviously have collision avoidance. And the other thing self-driving will have, by definition, self-driving cars, I believe, will have to be able to detect the presence of beings. Because there's not going to be a steering wheel in a future. It'll take a while to get there. And there's not going to be all the other things you have in the car. And you will have living environments, but they have to respond to the people that are in there. The people could have, for example, what if the person in the car has a heart attack or something like that? The vehicle has to know that. So when you're in a self-driving vehicle, as a being of any age or size, The vehicle will know about that and presumably have some communication mechanism and an ability to alert emergency or to go to a hospital or things like that. So 25, 30 years from now, if we don't mess it up, if we proceed as fast as we can to stop those 30,000 plus deaths a year and hundreds of thousands of incidents, this issue also will be an issue of the past. And the horror that Mr. Harrison went through will never have to happen again. And that's why I think, in a sense, there's a dual path. There's a legislation here that's now before you stand alone, and you have to decide whether that is important enough to make a priority in a way where, under any scenario, it will take several years. But also, I would urge you to push the legislation this committee already passed unanimously so we can proceed as a country instead of starting to get behind where we have a national approach, we make it a national goal, and we get there, and then we eliminate well over 90% of deaths and injuries, and there's so many benefits from that.
Okay.
Also, as
Yep.
just trying to get kids around as a parent.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Now, I'm very excited about self-driving cars on a number of fronts. Although yesterday I was told that they're also going to notify the potential of notifying you of when your weight goes up, which I'm not sure I'm excited about that.
We could talk about that.
Okay.
We agree there.
Thank you. I'm out of time too. I was interested, Mr. Harrison, just in hearing what technology you're most excited about, but maybe you can address that later. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll yield back.
If I could, at the end, I want to ask a question about self-driving cars and algorithms that may inadvertently be discriminatory. So we'll do that. Mr. Cardenas is next for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Ranking Member, for holding this very critical and important and emotional issue. The loss of life, each life is very tragic, and the fact that we are such an amazing country with so much technology and so much ability to right these situations quicker than probably anywhere on the planet. I think this hearing is important, that we hear about technology and we hear also about how dire that pain is when these tragedies occur. For example, according to Kids and Cars, we lost 62 children from back-over, front-over collisions. And again, that's 62 too many, that's one too many, et cetera. And as a parent and a grandparent, it's this lens that I have now of being a grandparent is even more critical to me, all of these issues. The first question I'd like to ask is to Ms. Fennell. What sorts of safety tips can parents and children follow to avoid a back-over or front-over tragedy?
Thank you very much for that question. What we tell parents is to make sure that you walk all the way around your vehicle before you ever move it, because there could be children behind or in front of the vehicle, and they tend, when you're leaving, they want to come and give you a kiss goodbye. They just want to wave, and they don't understand that you may not be able to see them. So, make sure that you walk all the way around. And we also suggest, because this is very available, if you don't already have built-in cameras and things, you can get these aftermarket. Because so many people say to me all the time, oh, when I get a new car, I want to get one of those, rear view cameras. I'm like, you don't have to wait. You can get that. It's pretty darn economical, and you just don't want to be backing blindly.
I think one thing that government can actually do is help subsidize retrofitting older vehicles with these devices so that it can become more prevalent more quickly. That could be something that government could encourage and invest in saving lives. That's one aspect, so thank you for sharing that with us. And you're not just talking to us, you're talking to the American people right now, so thank you for sharing that knowledge. I'd also like to thank you, Miles Harrison, for sharing what it's like to go through what you've gone through. Chase, we all wish he were here with us, but you and Carol are here with us, and you're dedicating your lives to unborn children, to families who have yet to have children and all of us who have precious little ones in our lives. I think that your courage and your willingness to allow yourself to be so confronted with this pain every day and in front of all of us in the public proves that you are innocent. It proves that what you went through in that trial was an overburden by our society that, in my opinion, was not necessary. And as a Christian myself, I noticed that you mentioned that you have yet to forgive yourself. Well, I'm of the feeling and the opinion that forgiveness was not something that you needed, because from where I come from, forgiveness is something that you get later after something. I don't think that you were required forgiveness because you didn't do anything in malice. You loved Chase. That's obvious. And I admire you for your strength. I just hope and pray that we, as representatives of the people, of the people's house, will do our job and to show the amount of strength and the responsibility and the energy and the time that we and our staffs should put forth to make these solutions more real as quickly as possible. Because every day that goes by, this could and does happen in America. So again, thank you for your courage and thank you for being here. And Carol, thank you for sharing your words with me and giving me advice. And there are many, many things that we can do, and hopefully we'll do them as quickly as possible. I yield back.
Thank you. I now yield to Mr. Letta for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thanks for having today's hearing. And Mr. Shapiro, if I could ask you my first question. And again, going back to self-drive technology, and when we worked on the legislation last year, we wanted to make sure that safety was always first, last, and always. We wanted to make sure that we had cybersecurity being built in the vehicles, that we also had privacy, making sure that those concerns were addressed, and also with the issues with our senior citizens who are no longer mobile, that they'd have ability to get out again. Our friends that have disabilities, that they have the opportunity that they were able to be mobile and to go to a job. It's just like Mr. Harper, who was our vice chairman at the time, his son has a disability, and he said that if he or his wife were at home, that they wouldn't be able to get him to work each day, and why it's so important. And in 2016, the Department of Transportation had the competition for Smart City Challenge out there for innovative and smart solutions that could occur out there. And the city of Columbus won in Ohio because they were wanting to address the alarmingly high rate of infant mortality that they had in the city. And I'd like to ask you, do you see more communities integrating self-driving vehicles in their services to address more community concerns out there? And what those concerns could be addressed by?
Thank you for that question. Smart cities is a very vital part of our future for so many different reasons. It goes to resiliency, it goes to energy efficiency, being green, it goes to having near you everything you need and serving populations, especially as we're moving to cities. It's not just the United States, around the world, whereas 40 or 50 years ago, 2/3 of us lived outside cities. Soon, 2/3 of us will live in cities. So smart cities themselves, what they do is the structure changes, even how you build a city, how many parking spaces you have, how people get around, and micro-transportation options and everything else. But what we see with self-driving cars, that's a vital part. And Ford recently at CES, the CEO presented a vision of a smart city and showed how you redesign the city and you use self-driving cars to get around, and it just changes everything. And obviously what goes away are so many things that we're spending money on today, both as a government and as people, in terms of if you have self-driving cars, if you get rid of 90% or more of collisions, it's not only the 30,000, 40,000 people that die, it's the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, that are injured. It's the cost, it's the auto insurance cost, the collision repair costs. There's so many things that change fundamentally. And you actually need fewer cars in a city, which in theory should cut down on congestion. You need less parking in a city. And all of a sudden, green spaces open up. So this is the way we actually have CES in Las Vegas, is we actually have smart cities, and we have a lot of self-driving right nearby, because it's just part of what it is. And a lot of the demonstration projects we're seeing are in the beginning are self-driving vehicles on an area, a community, a business entity area, a residential community for older people, where you have smart driving vehicles, self-driving vehicles actually going around. So yes, it changes everything, and that's where we're heading as a world. Some of us would just like to have timed traffic lights, but we have to go much, much further and much quicker. And that's where the government has a major role to end this tragedy on our highways. There's so many things we'll do with self-driving cars. We'll start, and we're getting closer every year. I honestly don't think this is happy talk. This is real. There's demonstrations. I've been in several self-driving cars myself, and they are safer, and they are better, and they will solve this problem totally.
Well, thank you. Let me go on, with the Self-Drive Act that I introduced with our chair in the last Congress, because it passed the House unanimously. Could you also explain somehow, we were talking about how it can improve the highway safety? I know you touched on it a little bit, but really get into a little more detail on how we can make these roads safer out there because of the 37,000 lives we lost last year alone.
Well, what we're seeing, and consumers want is, and the act will help, is make it a national approach. Right now, if you want to go from California, your self-driving car, to Nevada, you literally have to change your license plate at the border. That's not how we operate as a country. That's not what, one of our competitive advantages over Europe, frankly, is the fact that we have one language, one land, and the rules which affecting vehicles are really more on licensing and things like that. So the Self-Driving Act does so many different things to allow testing, to encourage testing, to move us forward. But what we're seeing, and I want to get this point out, if I may, Madam Chair, is that consumers are chosen. The biggest surprise I had at the end of 1998 is 2018, is that when we issue our annual statistics and forecasts, we had to raise by $1 billion what Americans are spending on car electronics. And I dug deep and I said, why is this? What did we get wrong a year ago? And what we got wrong was Americans' desire to load up their cars with safety options. They were going to dealerships and all these things which lead us to self-driving, going to level 2 and level 3. They want that in their cars. So they're choosing actually with their pocketbooks to get these features, and that bodes really well for investment by the car companies. It bodes well for what consumers want.
Well, thank you very much. Madam Chair, my time's expired and I yield back, and I appreciate your indulgence.
Thank you. Congresswoman Blunt-Rochester, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for calling this important hearing on summer driving dangers. I first want to say to Ms. Fennell, thank you so much for sharing your story and for the work that you're doing. I thank all of the panelists for your testimony. I especially want to say something to Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. As a parent, I sit before you and think about all the parents across the country, all the families, and I think about the fact that how I got to this position was unexpectedly being widowed at the age of 52. And I'm from the state of Delaware, and I remember being in the hospital that day, and our vice president called and said, may the day come when your loved one's name brings a smile to your face before a tear to your eye. And as I see you cry those tears, I want you both to know that Chase is here. You are creating a legacy for him. And there will be a day when we pass these bills and you will be able to smile broadly and know that your work is not in vain and that you turned your pain into purpose. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for staying on the battlefield. And thank you all for the work that you're doing. Just wanted you to know that. And now I'm going to take a breath and turn to my questions. For my state, in Delaware, automobile safety is very important. And I'd like to echo Chairman Pallone's opening that it's fitting that we're having this hearing Memorial Day weekend. Delaware saw approximately 9 million visitors in 2017, and some of those visitors' vehicle safety was crucial to saving their lives, their children, pedestrians, and families. We also have the major I-95 corridor that goes up and down the East Coast, so this is really important. And Delaware saw 119 automobile-related fatalities in 2017, which was greater than the previous 2 years. So this is important, this discussion, not just to Delaware, but to our country. And I want to ask my first question to Mr. Levine. Thank you again for your testimony. We all agree that these technologies have the potential to radically change the automobile travel in our country and safety, but I'm concerned that access to these life-saving technologies is sometimes determined in large part by income. If you could talk to us about the fact that, you have these things like land departure warnings, backup cameras, and things like that that are also sold as like luxury item packages. They're put in as upgrades. And I understand that J.D. Power in 2015, the study said that consumers are willing to pay for safety features, but up to a certain limit. And so if you could just talk about how widespread this is, this issue of bundling these things, and do you believe that safety-enhancing features as part of an expensive add-on or bundle discourages consumers from buying these safety features?
Thank you for the question. And I think the short answer is yes, it does. We have a history of the auto industry very successfully taking longer than probably is necessary once safety technology has met a certain level of performance requirements in terms of seeing it as a standard and has used that interim time to sell it as a luxury feature. We need to look no further than the backup cameras, which took 10 years from the moment at which they were readily available in terms of the technology and reasonably priced in terms of integrating into the system until they became mandatory. And during that period of time, all of a sudden, it became part of a leather seat package, a moonroof package that really undercuts the ability for everyone to prevent that awful mistake.
And should NISTA be doing more to require safety features on all new vehicles? I have 43 seconds, and anybody can jump in also if there are ideas to help consumers to be able to access these features.
Real quick, there's a number of existing mandates over at NHTSA in terms of safety rules that they could move forward with very quickly, and some other things that they could start the process of to move things forward to get everyone the safety devices.
I have 27 seconds.
I'd like to just say that there is a pending rule for rear seatbelt reminders that would save thousands and thousands of lives. We know a reminder for putting on your seatbelt will help. We tell everyone to put their children in the back seat, but there's not a reminder back there. It should have been finished in October 2015. It has not even been started yet.
Great. I yield back the balance of my time, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Bouchon, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your testimony. One of the most common things we're having trouble with now is distracted driving from cell phone usage, right? I have 4 kids. They're 26, 24, 21, and 15. 3 of them drive, one's going to. Is there any technology right now that could prevent people from being on their phone when they're driving? Ms. Fennell, start with you, and then Mr. Shapiro, I guess. Whoever feels like they can answer that question the best. We have to go, they asked, I can't remember, Willie Horton, why do you rob banks? He said, that's where the money is. And so this is one of the biggest problems that we have in our country, distracted driving by everyone, really. Is there something we can do about it?
So I'll start. There are a number of technologies that are being tested that either can disable phone use inside the vehicle. Obviously, there's some consumer acceptance concerns of that, because if you're not the driver, there's a level of, I want to be able to still use my phone. So there's a weighing of the safety.
Can I make a quick comment? My dad, he died at age 84, and he never put his seatbelt on, so he was resistant to that. So We still mandated seatbelts in automobiles, right?
So we'd be okay with it. I'm just, explaining.
I understand.
Part of the reason. And there's aftermarket technology. The phones themselves have the technology. I think we also need an ability to have a larger conversation, which this committee has started and continues on the idea of how terribly dangerous distracted driving is. I think people still think it's not the same thing as drinking or being on drugs or other distractions. It is equally as deadly.
Anybody else have any comments?
Sure. The increase in driving deaths is troubling, and part of it can be attributed to lower gas prices and the fact that people are driving more, the economy is doing better, but not all of it. And definitely there is a distracted driving issue. I think we did a really good job several years ago of alerting people to it with a lot of public education campaigns. We worked very hard on it. I think companies like Apple and other cell phone companies have said, you have to punch in, I am not driving, especially even if you're a passenger, and it's a good solution. But it seems that the nature of the technology is such that it becomes more urgent, and it's almost like you get a little hormone thing. It's difficult not to answer. And then there are solutions coming a little bit quicker. The smart speaker is migrating to the car, and that allows you to use your voice, if you will, as a medium rather than looking down and use your hands. You could have your emails and other things read to you. There's a lot of different things there, and also there's frankly these passive and active reminders that are increasingly in cars that tell you if you've gone over the line, it vibrates your seat or makes a noise. And these are solutions, and an advantage of these being introduced the way they are by the car companies is consumers are becoming not only comfortable with them, but they want them. Yes, they do have to pay more for them in the beginning, but there's a competitive marketplace in the beginning as to which ideas win, how they get perfected, and there's an economy of scale, which as you make more of these, and the right ones survive, they go down dramatically in cost. So the government, I think, and your job as Congress is to figure out that fine line between mandating something that could be cost-effective for everyone and not impose a huge cost, so it costs a lot more to buy a car, and going the other way and saying, wait a second, we'll just leave this to the free marketplace forever. These safety devices may have value, but not enough to mandate. So you have to figure out that balance line. I would urge that competition, especially for new products being introduced, publicize, get them out there, see which ones are the best, and see how consumers react to them. But we have a lot of solutions coming as we get to the holy grail, which is a self-driving car.
Okay. All right. I'll follow up with you on another question, Mr. Shapiro. Most rural parts of this country, I represent a lot of rural areas, people have to travel great distances to receive medical care. So this is potential area of self-driving that could really be beneficial, right? The closest hospital may be the next town over, and specialists may be hundreds of miles away. Can you talk about maybe how self-driving vehicles, not only just for convenience, but actually for things like going to see a doctor, or especially for rural parts of America, how it might benefit people more broadly as it relates to that?
That is a hugely important point, Congressman. I appreciate you raising it. Rural America is not well served by a lot of our whole U.S. infrastructure today, and it's a challenge. Self-driving cars clearly will make a difference because that will provide for, especially for, look, a large portion of elderly people cannot drive even, and it will allow them to be served and serviced. And also, since we have such an active group that's proceeding so quickly in technology, telemedicine is increasingly big, and we need to break down barriers for that as well. You shouldn't always have to get into a car to see your doctor. We found in our own operation, for example, that if you just let people talk to a doctor, they may not have to go to the emergency room. But yet, you'll serve not only elderly people, rural people, people with disabilities, and others, and they need to be empowered. We shouldn't have such a large percentage of our population eliminated from the services that we can provide to get them healthy, to see things and do things.
Thank you very much. I yield back.
Mr. Carter, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank all of you for being here. This very important subject. Mr. Harrison, thank you especially. I can only imagine the pain, but I want you to know that your courage is an inspiration to all of us, and thank you. Thank you for being here. Mr. Shapiro, let me ask you, and kind of to follow up on Dr. Bouchon's questions about distracted driving. We concentrate a lot of times on DWI and impaired driving, but distracted driving is a big problem. I mean, we've all experienced it. And listen, I'm as bad as anybody, I admit, and I need to do better with that. But distracted driving, as we have more of this, and we do have more of it, because we're a society now that is, you got to have it right now. I mean, the phone rings, you got to answer it right now. If you get an email, you got to answer it right now, and that's just the kind of society we are right now. Are there any ways to educate and incentivize drivers and like me that are distracted to change our behavior?
I don't know about incentivizing you because I don't want to violate any ethics rules. But in terms of, there's a huge number of innovative technological solutions that people are selling. There's, for example, if let's say you're a teenager, you want to track what they're doing and how they're driving, you can. Insurance companies are increasingly say you could get a lower rate if we could put, track your driving for a while or always to see whether.
So there's a financial incentive.
There are some marketplace things out there. And there's a lot of software. There's a lot of technology. Increasingly, for example, there's technology which monitors your eyes, and if your eyes are away from the road for more than a couple of seconds, it sends off an alert. There's that, as I said, like if you go over the line in increasingly large number of cars, you get a passive indication, your wheel vibrates or your seat vibrates, so there's a noise which lets you know you've done that. So there's a lot of solutions out there. But the fact that there are technological solutions doesn't mean they're activated. For example, with drunk driving, we've known how to cure drunk driving for 30 years. We know you could test someone before they start their car, and we've chosen, not we collectively as government and people have chosen not to implement that. But I think we need to do more in public awareness. I think we need to do more in terms of publicizing these things that are out there, and I think the insurance companies have their role to play. But yeah, it's definitely a problem. And there's different state laws. Like if you're at one of these lights here in Virginia, where our organizations, but you can wait there for 2 minutes, and how could you resist looking at your device? But in some states, that's illegal. So
Right. And in the state of Georgia, we've made it illegal, or the legislature has passed legislation to make it illegal, and I welcome that. I think it is necessary, and certainly we've got to change that. I understand. You've talked a lot about self-driving cars, Mr. Shapiro, and that's obviously the wave of the future. What do you see as the most impactful technologies that are coming out there? I mean, if you had to list, this is really going to be a game changer. Is there something like that out there?
Well, self-driving cars is the answer, but there's many steps to get to the answer. It's not digital where you're either there or you're not. I mean, it's easier to do in climates where there aren't snow and hail and rain and things like that. And there's so many things and steps and different companies along the way that have to do things really, really well to make this work. I mean, we have the camera technologies got down dramatically. Some of the new cars today have several cameras on them, but someone has to process that. And for example, there's something called LiDAR, which is very expensive. It's a couple $1,000s now, but that's really allows, like, cameras aren't the only answer, although Tesla takes the approach that cameras are the only answer. The problem with cameras don't really work that well at night, and they see two-dimensionally. LiDAR actually picks up where cameras wear off. So I'm not going to say there's one answer. I'm going to say the answer is redundancy and making sure that cars are safe.
Let me ask you this, not to interrupt you, but let me ask you, I've got my truck. It's a 04. It's got 408,000 miles on it. I mean, obviously, it doesn't have any of this technology. Is there any kind of aftermarket technology that can be applied? Because the average person keeps a car for, 10 and a half, 11 years?
It's about almost approaching 12 years now, and you're absolutely right. This is going to be an evolution over years, and there will be aftermarket solutions, but I don't know if there'll be total solutions. So the question is, but if we have, it's like, think of the measles vaccine, if you will. If the higher percentage of self-driving cars we get out there, the safer everyone is. Right. And how we address the last 10 or 15, 20%, I think there should be some good, healthy discussion. It could be those cars, your car might have, even though it's old, might have higher insurance premiums on it because you're less safe than everyone else. So we will get to those problems. Those are not the big problems. I think the issue is how do we get this legislation passed, which came out of this committee the last Congress, bipartisan, unanimously. How do we get it so we're working as a country towards a goal? And that goal, in my view, could be clearly stated. By X date, we have X number of fewer percentage deaths, and that's what we should be doing as a country.
Well, thank you again. Thank you all for being here. And I yield back.
And I would like to thank all of our witnesses for their participation in today's hearing. We have some documents to submit for the record. I request unanimous consent to enter them into the record. I will read them. A letter from Securing America's Future Energy, a letter from the United States Chamber of Commerce's Technology Engagement Center, a statement from Jennifer Huddleston and Ryan Skorup, research fellows from the Mercatus Center at George Mason University, a letter from Mark Scribner from Competitive Enterprise Institute, a statement of Catherine Chase, president of the Advocates for Highway Safety Auto Safety, a letter from the National Security Council. Without objection, I'd like to insert them into the record. Hearing none, so ordered. I remind members that pursuant to committee rules, they have 10 days, 10 business days to submit additional questions for the record to be answered by the witnesses who have appeared. I ask each witness to respond promptly to any such questions that you may receive. And at this time, the subcommittee is adjourned.